Alrighty, so welcome, musicians. If you are venturing into Ableton Live, you definitely need to understand this topic: how to warp audio. What do you mean, warp audio? Well, here's the deal: Ableton Live is the best software for performances. Why? Because in a performance, you'll need to speed up and you'll need to slow down songs. Everyone knows with audio, um, if you take some audio, for instance, like back in the day, if we put our finger on a record and made the record play slower, the record would slow sound like this. Or if we play something too fast, it would get really high pitched and talk really fast. And so with audio, it's very difficult to speed up or to slow down an audio file without changing the pitch, without manipulating the sound. Ableton Live gives you the ability to speed up and slow down audio files by doing a process called warping. Warping audio. And so you need to watch this video to understand warping, because if you are a church musician and you are using the drum beats that I've given you, I've only done one half of the hard work. I've created the drum files, but that doesn't mean they are 100% fitting all your needs. You might need it slower. You might need it faster. And for you to do that, you're going to have to actually speed up audio files. Sometimes, for you to speed up an audio file, you need to understand warping so it will sound correct. And I'm about to show you an example of what I'm talking about, um, so that you can know how to fix it, and that the drum beats that we have created are absolutely great, because we're teaching you how to use Ableton. We're giving you a great foundation of a drum beat. Now the rest is up to you, right? The rest is up to you. So now, um, our Ableton files that we create, we pre-warp them to our needs. We pre-warp them to our needs, but sometimes some beats need a little bit more tweaking to fit your needs. And so I'm about to show you how. And so the first thing I'm going to do right quick is I'm going to click on the first groove. We're going to quickly listen to this 6/8 groove, I mean 6/4 groove. 1 2 3 4 5 6. 1 2 3 4 5 6. So this 6/4 groove, it's in 6/4 time. It's at 173 beats per minute, and this beat works perfectly for what we was doing. I was using "If the Lord." That's the beat I was using, right? But what if you want to do that beat slower? Let's double click on it real quick. Now you see the audio. You see the audio. My man Jeremy, shouts out to Jay Williams Drums, who recorded this for me. You're gonna see the audio beat, and you're gonna see um, these yellow marks above each waveform. Those are warp markers, okay? And you can see that to the left, you can see that the warp is enabled. It's green, right? Now, watch what happens. I'm gonna change this to beat. I'm gonna change where it says pro. I'm gonna change it to beat. All right. Sometimes with some audio, you can keep it on beat. You can speed up and slow down things and it will sound right. But let's go ahead and slow down to see what it sounds like. Do you hear? Listen to the snare. Listen how the snare Listen how it gets off there. So now what you need to know is how to fix this. One way to fix it is to keep the beat. Don't go to beats, but go to Complex Pro. Complex Pro is an algorithm that thinks a little bit more, that analyzes a little bit more, and it helps the Ableton project warp and manipulate audio files without those artificial artifacts that you may hear. Let's listen for a moment to see if Complex Pro fixed it. Complex Pro did a better job, but we can make it even better. I'm going to go back to beats real quick. You definitely can hear the snare. The snare sounds like it's reversed. And so if you look, there's measure 1, measure 2, measure 3, measure 4, measure 5, and etc. And in between, you have 1 and 2 and 3 and let me see. Let me make it bigger. You can see, oh, I'm in 6/4 time. I'm sorry, I was counting wrong. So you have 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 2. And so you got 6/4 time. Let me play the metronome. Listen how it hesitates. So the one way you can fix it, let's look at it real quickly. So you can see this first kick right here. There has a yellow line, but after that you hear hi-hat. You see this wave right here and this wave right here. It's smaller. Let me go ahead and make everything slightly bigger for you. But this is a hi-hat and this is a hi-hat. So let's listen to measure 1. You hear how it hesitates? Listen to where the metronome is and listen to where the hi-hat is. So how you can fix that, if you notice, above each waveform, all the way up here is a little white line. What I can do is go to this first one, and I can just double click right there, and I can double click on this hi-hat. Now that I've double clicked on the hi-hat, what I can do, hang on, I'm gonna undo those. I'm gonna drag it bigger because I wanna get right at the front of this, double click it, get right at the front of this, double click it, and now I can make sure that these hi-hats are exactly where I want them. And then I can just meticulously go through here. I can drag, make it bigger, go. You see how it's behind it a little bit? I don't want it to be there. I want it to be in front of it. So I'm going to double click to create a marker. And now I'm telling it where the start of it is, and I am putting it right there on that grid. And so if I go through here just kind of quickly, and I just go to the front of that wave, double click it, and make sure that it's right there, and then I have measure 2. And so what you would do is just kind of go through here, take the time, and go there, double click there, put that there. And what Complex Pro does is Complex Pro really looks at the WAV file and say, oh, well, I need to make this adjustment. I need to make this adjustment. But it's better if you take the time and just kind of go through here a little bit, go to the beginning of each little WAV file, double click, go to the beginning, double click. Let me make that bigger, make sure I'm at the beginning. Go as close to the beginning as you can, double click. And then when you do that, everyone, we'll just go that far. We'll just go that far. When you do that, now you are manually putting kick, hat, snare, you are manually putting everything where it needs to be. And if you listen to it now, let's see what happens. It's better, but I still hear the effects of that snare. Right there, I still hear the snare being manipulated because the audio is slowed down. And so what I do is I typically keep audio on Complex Pro, And Complex Pro does the best job of regions like this where you have a snare and a kick being slowed down. It does a better job of warping the audio so you don't hear those artificial artifacts. So let's listen. Much better. So this first section is much tighter, much tighter. So I'm just going to kind of quickly go ahead and go through and just grab all of these, all the hi-hats that I see. I'm going to double click them and make sure that they are directly on a beat. I'm going to go ahead and just create a warp marker to tell Ableton where everything should be. And I'm just going to quickly do this for sake of this video in hopes that it's close enough. But typically I would take the time, I would take my mouse, put it up here on the numbers till I get that hourglass, click and hold, and then drag my mouse to make something bigger, right? And then if I do that, then I can really get fine tooth. I can really get in, click at the beginning of it to create that line there, double click there. Now I have the warp marker in the perfect spot, right? And then it can be very tedious doing this, but this is what's necessary sometimes if you are trying to speed up something slower than we intended for it to be. You have that control to do that. But if you're trying to slow something slower than we intended it to be, what you have to do is just know how to slow down audio. You slow down audio by warping it, okay? And so I'm just kind of quickly going through here. This is another reason why we try to keep the drums in like 8-bar, 4-bar patterns. We try to keep them in small patterns so that if you need to do any extra tweaking for your needs, it won't take you as long. I've only been on here around 10 minutes and I've already done this. So just with a little extra time, now let's see what happens. So we've slowed it down. We've slowed it down and it sounds much better. It sounds much better. So now watch this. I'm going to click to the right again, put it back at its original tempo. And now it sounds good there. I'm going to turn the metronome off. Now that we did some fine tooth editing, let's see what it's going to sound like if we keep slowing it down. We've slowed this down to 125. You're not supposed to be able to slow down audio that slow and it still sound good. If the low... You're not supposed to be able to slow audio down that slow and it still sound okay. Watch what happens when I click this one that hasn't been warped as much. It was warped, but as you can see, here's a place that hasn't been warped. Here's a place that hasn't been warped. This. And when you don't warp every single thing, once you try to slow things down slower than you intend or slower than it was designed, those are the sections that it may start sounding weird. Let's see how it sounds. Being slowed down to 125 actually sounds decent. That sounds actually pretty decent. So this is a good example that we did a good job of warping this and slowing it down way slower than we intend. But you may get something that has been slowed down so slow, or you want to speed it up so fast it sounds weird. It's because of the nature of editing audio. When you edit audio, You really have to go through with the fine tooth comb. And so, again, what I do is I do the warping to my needs. But as you can see, here, let me just do one more. This is a different time signature. Let's look at this 9/4. Let's just, I don't want to do that one because that would be a lot more work. Let's do this one. This 12/8 was recorded perfectly. Everything showed up. So I didn't do any extra warping because this was the tempo we wanted it at. But watch what happens. It's supposed to be at 109 BPM, and we're still at 125. Let me slow down. See what happens. And it's still pretty on. Everything that we've done so far, even if you slow things down this slow, let me see. I know this is the worst case scenario. Even if we slow it down that slow, it still works. But just be aware that sometimes if you try to slow some things down, it may sound weird. If something sounds weird, it's as simple as double clicking on each WAV file so that you can drag it to its correct beat so that you can make some of the fine adjustments that need to be made, right? Just make sure that you go through, create all the markers that you need, then start dragging and adjusting. Because if you make a marker and then you start making adjustments before every marker is there, you may get things out of whack. Okay, you may get things out of whack. So, um, that's the biggest thing that you need to know about warping audio and adjusting audio. It's as simple as clicking on one of the audio regions that we have over here. Any one of the audio regions that you see me clicking on the left hand, I'm in the orange. Now I'm going to the green. Click on, and once you double click them, you will see the audio jump up at the bottom, and then that is where you will begin to make your changes. Okay, and so that is just a brief overview of warping audio. Warping audio. Once we get into warping music, it gets even more tedious, right? It gets even more tedious. You shouldn't have to warp the music tracks that I send you. You shouldn't have to, but if you want to, if you start speeding up and slowing down, you may need to understand this. Quickly, just again, click on the individual track there. Make sure warp is in the yellow, and click on this list of options. Just make sure it's on Complex Pro, and that gives you the most amount of control. Okay, God bless you. Thank you for your time. Hopefully I taught you something. We'll talk to you on the next lesson.